said you serve at the pleasure of the president. Is that not true?
I do serve at the pleasure.
So if the president told you to shoot people in the legs, would you do so? Now, would you order our military to shoot at their fellow countrymen if ordered by the president?
I think it's interesting that for 4 years, insurrection was the left's favorite word.
I think we know your answer. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield.
Congresswoman Jill Tokuda of Hawaii put Pete Hegseth on the spot in a way that cut through the evasions, the half-answers, and the political theater we've come to expect.
Mr. Secretary, did you invite Elon Musk for a briefing on war plans with China to the Pentagon? Yes or no is simple.
There's been a lot of hyperbole and incorrect reporting around that situation, but we did invite Elon over to come talk to us generally, but there was no war plans being discussed.
Okay, so whose idea was it to invite him to the Pentagon for a briefing? You mentioned you served at the pleasure of the president. Was it the president's will to have him come and be briefed?
Well, as you know, at that time, Elon Musk was leading up DOGE efforts, and we've taken a great investment in DOGE at DOD, and so getting his input on how we make DOD more efficient makes a great deal of sense.
Okay, but don't you think it's a conflict of interest for the world's richest man? Many of the contracts that the DOD is engaged in, billions of dollars of contracts going to his company, and he is, as to your point, was leading DOGE, which was involved in cutting hundreds of contracts, but also becoming intimately aware of the platforms and the requirements that would be given out for new contracts. Did you not think it was a conflict of interest to invite someone with financial interests into the Pentagon to have firsthand knowledge of what they could then bid on for their own, enrichment?
Ma'am, it was just an informal discussion, but I'll tell you, anyone that knows our Defense Department knows we show no preference to any company other than what your capabilities are, and we're grateful for the places where his companies benefit our national defense.
So for a $280 million donation, the world's richest man with companies intimately linked and involved in billion-dollar contracts with the Department of Defense gain access into the Pentagon. So would you say that any company right now that has multi-billion-dollar contracts with the Department of Defense has access to the Pentagon right now? 1-hour briefings with you personally?
On the regular basis, I meet with many people and many different companies and many different aspects of our defense industrial base to ensure we have the best possible capabilities. It would be imprudent to do
Well, I'm
otherwise.
sure for an investment of $280 million, Elon's investors are quite happy that it's come out into the billions. I want to jump questions right now. Mr. Secretary, on January 6, 2021, rioters and looters attacked federal law enforcement officials, vandalized and destroyed federal government property, and caused an estimated $2.7 billion in damages right here at the Capitol. Would you have sent the National Guard and the Marines in on that day?
Well, unfortunately, President Trump requested the National Guard in advance, and that was...
It took him quite a long time. I'm asking you, as Secretary of Defense, would you have sent in the National Guard and the Marines on that day? We had 140 Capitol Police officers injured. One died the next day. Would you have sent in the National Guard and the Marines?
As I said, President Trump directed National Guard to be there in advance.
And I think you can look at the record of how long it actually took for him to actually send them in. But it's good to hear that it sounds like you would have sent in the National Guard and the Marines on that day in which the insurrection was taking place right here at the Capitol. Mr. Secretary, during your confirmation hearing, you failed to deny the conclusion that you would carry out an order to shoot protesters in the legs. So let me be direct. Given what we are seeing across the country right now, would you carry out or issue an order by the president for our military to fire upon protesters actively engaging in their civil right to exercise free speech, their First Amendment rights? Would you give that order from the president?
I assume you're insinuating what's going on in Los Angeles, and I wouldn't call
Not just
that a
Los
peaceful
Angeles.
protest.
If we take a look at protests throughout the country, it's a simple question. If directed by the president, would you order our military to fire upon protesters? Simple yes or no is
Ma'am, we
fine.
have, as you know, and as this committee knows, we have standard rules of engagement that are in place that give guidance to our troops, and they abide by them.
I'm asking what you would do. Again, you said you serve at the pleasure of the president. Is that not true?
I do serve at the pleasure.
So if the president told you to shoot people in the legs, would you do so? Now, you failed to answer this question as well in your confirmation hearing when asked by members of the Senate.
Because I refuse to accept a false hypothetical that's attempting to put me in a corner and make it look like a representative.
At a time when we have more Marines and National Guard in Los Angeles than we do in Syria and Iran alone, I don't think this is a hypothetical. This is an actual situation that we are dealing with right now. So again, I will ask the question, the last 14 seconds I have, would you order our military to shoot at their fellow countrymen if ordered by the president?
I think it's interesting that for 4 years, insurrection was the left's
I think we
favorite
know your
word,
answer. Thank you, Mr.
and that
Chair. I
when it's
yield back.
invoked in
She started with Elon Musk. Why was the world's richest man, a man whose companies hold billions in defense contracts, invited into the Pentagon for what Hegseth called an informal discussion? This isn't just about one billionaire. It's about the way influence, money, and access can warp our democracy and our defense priorities. When someone with such massive financial stakes is given privileged access to decision-makers, it's not just a meeting. It's a potential conflict of interest that could tilt contracts, shape policy, and profit private pockets at the expense of taxpayers and national security. Tokuda framed it plainly. This isn't transparency, it's favoritism. And that favoritism undermines trust in government. Then she pivoted to January 6th. And here, Tokuda asked the kind of question that goes to the heart of competence and principle. Would Hegseth have sent the National Guard and Marines to defend the Capitol on that day? She reminded him, and all of us, that 140 officers were injured, 1 died, and billions in damages scarred this very institution. The answer wasn't about theory, it was about history. Trump delayed sending help. Law enforcement was outnumbered, overrun, and abandoned. And Tokuda's pressing made it clear. Had Hegseth been in charge, would he have done the right thing, or would he have followed the same path of hesitation and loyalty to Trump above country? But then came the most chilling exchange. Tokuda asked directly, if the president ordered you to fire upon protesters, Americans exercising their First Amendment rights, would you obey? This is not a silly hypothetical, as Hegseth tried to suggest. It's a test of principle. Because around the world, authoritarian regimes do exactly that. They turn their military on their own citizens. And when Tokuda asked him point blank, if the president told you to shoot people in the legs, would you? He refused to say no. That silence says everything. For viewers, this is more than just political sparring. It's a window into how fragile democracy can be if the wrong people are given power. The military is not the president's private army. Our troops swear an oath to the Constitution, not to any one man. The idea that someone would even hesitate to reject such an unlawful order shows us the danger of appointing leaders whose loyalty is not to the law, but to political figures. Tokuda's persistence teaches us something important. Oversight matters. These hearings are not just sound bites. They are tests of who is willing to stand up for democracy, who will defend the Constitution, and who will fold under pressure. And what we saw today was one leader standing firm and one nominee dodging, deflecting, and failing the test. If you take anything from this, it's that democracy isn't guaranteed. It's not self-sustaining. It depends on leaders who will defend it and citizens who will demand it. Tokuda showed us how to demand accountability, with sharp questions, persistence, and moral clarity. Now it's on us to do the same, to stay engaged, to hold leaders accountable, and to vote for those who will put country above party, law above loyalty, and democracy above dictatorship. Because when the question is, would you fire on your own people if told to by a president, the only acceptable answer in America is no.